You're listening to Following On with me, Neil Manthorp, along with former England fast bowler Steve Harmison, as we build up to the start of the second test between England and New Zealand, which starts on Wednesday. Of course, there'll be no England captain Ben Stokes and no Gus Atkinson. There are a number of other changes as well, which we'll discuss, Harmy. I said deliberately England captain Ben Stokes because he has not been dismissed from that post. He has not resigned that post. He remains the current captain, but he was unavailable for selection, as we all know. Brendon McCullum was asked and spoke for 12 or 13 minutes about his captain. And before I ask you about what he had to say, let's just hear what Brendon McCullum had to say about Ben Stokes.
Look, when I first found out about it, I was obviously slightly bewildered, if I'm being honest. And then you go through a range of emotions. I think you go from being bewildered onto angry, onto kind of gutted, from the progress which we had talked about and discussed over the last 6 months and what we're trying to do with the side and some of the improvements we're trying to make, which includes the standards that we want to set for ourselves. To hear about this was incredibly gutting, I guess. But then I guess when you're in roles like this, you got to start trying to separate from the action and the man, and very quickly through talking to Ben in particular and also Gus, I guess my overall emotion probably turned to a little bit of worry and concern for Ben in particular. And then since then, it's been about how do we support these guys whilst not overlooking the fact that they've not lived up to the standards which we've set for ourselves. You can't walk past that per se, but at the same time, and we'll deal with that in time and through a process. But for me, it's very much about how do we support these guys through the next stage, and in particular Ben. And that's very much where my mind is at. I worry for him.
Can you see a way back for him though as captain, or has the trust now been eroded too badly?
Look, I think we need to go through a process. I think I look at the time that the last 4 years I've worked intimately with Ben, and I've seen Ben be an unbelievable captain. I think I've seen him at his absolute best as a captain, his best as a player, and he's helped shape this environment over the last 4 years, and he's had some incredible success doing it. And I feel very lucky that during that time we've worked so closely together. And what will be down the line. Those decisions, they're not for now. The concern at the moment is making sure that Ben is fine, and we need to look after him, rally around him, and in time we'll get on to those sorts of decisions. But for me, I'm just making sure that I'm checking in with him, and that's where things sit at the moment.
Just on Ben, you're worried about him. Are you encouraged that he's already back in the nets and is considering playing on Friday for Durham?
I'm worried about Ben. That's it. I'll leave it at that. I mean, I'm in constant communication with him, which is great. I care for him immensely. Whatever he is working through at the moment, it will be because that Ben thinks that that's right for dealing with what he's feeling at the moment. So my concern is Ben. He's very entitled to make his own decisions around that stuff, and I encourage him to keep doing stuff like that, because if it gives him some joy and some satisfaction, then that's good.
That's Brendon McCullum talking about Ben Stokes. Harmy, there are lots of words that come to mind. John Norman and I spoke about the press conference in its immediate aftermath. I said I found it quite chilling. There wasn't a great deal of optimism. There was a great deal of concern expressed by Brendon McCullum. He said 5 times that he was concerned and worried about Ben Stokes. What was your takeaway, having listened to it? You weren't in the room, but did you find it concerning?
Yeah, very concerning. A lot of long pauses, a lot of thoughtful comebacks. As expected, I didn't expect Brendon to say a huge amount on the subject, because I don't think it's right for him to say a huge amount on the subject. I think it's an in-house disciplinary process that needs to run its course. I think it needs to have time to breathe. I think it needs to have, I think, a clarity of mind. I think it still possibly still needs to in an ideal world, this test match finishes early, and they can buy a little bit more time before they go to the next one, and whether it's right to bring Ben back in or to what possibly could be the right thing, which would be miss the next test match, which gives you another 5 or 6 weeks before the Pakistan series. I'm of the opinion I'd get him back out there. Before I heard Brendon speak, I was of, well, let's get this week out of the way, make sure that there's no anything hidden that comes to light, that there's been anything further in the sort of altercation, the time he was out, or that anything that's going to come back harder on the England cricket team. And if there's not, and it's about somebody staying out after 12 o'clock off the back of a test match win, and yeah, he has made a mistake, but if that's all it is, then I'll happily for him to play Durham on Friday, get through that game, finish Monday, and then with a view of bringing him back into the fold and playing at Trent Bridge as England captain. I would have him as England captain. I still think, I hear what people say when they go, how can he have authority? He's Ben Stokes. He's Ben Stokes. He has been to war for that team so many times, for this country so many times. I can't, he's made a couple of mistakes in the past, but for anybody to stand that anybody thinks that not one of them players, if Ben Stokes says I'm going for that brick wall, I still think have the same amount of admiration for their captain.
I have to say that I find it staggeringly hypocritical and irrelevant, the number of people who have said Ben Stokes has lost authority. How can he lead this team now that he's done this? It's got nothing to do with people sitting on the outside providing judgment. It's got nothing to do. Tell me that these players won't follow Ben Stokes. Is that not the most important thing? I know that it's important for the ECB, and I know that the image of the English cricket team is important. I know that the image of the game is important. I know that the trust of the fans is important. But for them to say that Ben Stokes has lost authority to captain this team just seems preposterous.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it's embarrassing that some people are trying to make their own little headline off the back of a player who, I mean, what he's done for this country is,
win 2 World Cups.
Yeah, I think it's unmeasurable. Yeah, he won the World Cup final in 2019. Yeah, not by himself, but he went a hell of a long way to doing the sort of heavy lifting towards the end of it. I think he won the World Cup final in the T20 one, because I'm not sure many people would have played that innings in Melbourne on that pitch the way he did, in the situation he played it. Headingley, everything that comes, and yes, there might be a few little bumps in the roads, but I'm sorry. Do you know what? If it was me in there, listening to Brendon, I don't want to sort of put any more pressure on it. The first thing I had done off the back of it, if I hadn't spoke to Ben or had spoke to him briefly, and I'd been a teammate of him for a hell of a long time, I'd have been ringing Ben up, potentially even gone to his house and saying, "Are you all right, mate?" Because that didn't really sound that convincing by Brendon McCullum, but he is in such a difficult place. He's trying to show authority. He's trying to show that there was a mistake made and there has to be repercussions. But I think he was also trying to show empathy. I've been very, very critical of Brendon McCullum keeping his job. But I'm not sure I would have wanted too many other people in charge of this situation than Rob Key and Brendon McCullum, because I think they have got authority, but I think they both have empathy, and I think they both have. I can't have a go at this guy because, I mean, glass houses and throwing stones. I lived on the edge, as Brendon McCullum did. Rob Key lived on the edge at times. And I think that has been mistakes made in their careers. So they've felt what Ben's feeling. So I don't think I think if it had been during my time under a Duncan Fletcher, seeing Duncan Fletcher sitting next to Andrew Flintoff when Andrew Flintoff was on a pedalo, that was so uncomfortable. It was ridiculous. There was a coldness of Duncan, just he didn't understand, didn't get. I think Brendon gets this, and I think, people might say, oh, well, you wanted rid of him 6 months ago. I think he is the perfect person to navigate these waters. If it's me, Manners, honestly, I want to walk in that dressing room and go, curfew, gone. Talking about drinking ban, gone. I'd reiterate, you are professional sportsmen. It's your career. You behave how you feel as though you need to behave to make sure at 11 o'clock in the morning you're ready to get through the day at 6:30 in the best you possibly can as a professional sportsman, because you're adults. And that, for me, I think when you've got a curfew, there's a lack of trust in the environment. When you've got a curfew, you're teaching, it's like school kids.
Yeah.
Ben Stokes is 35 years old with a mortgage and 2 kids, married with 2 kids. If he wants to be out celebrating after a win, I've got no problem with that.
Yeah.
10 days to go. I understand the backstory of why it's in place. But I would be reiterating, if I was in that fold and saying, look, lads, we're letting ourselves down massively here because we're not helping ourselves sometimes when we open our mouth. We are not helping ourselves sometimes when we behave off the field. We're representing England, we're professional sportsmen, and we are not behaving like professional sportsmen. But unfortunately, the environment doesn't seem to be the best environment because there's a few of them tripping themselves up. You know what the media is. You know what the world is. You know what social media, camera phones, and the world that you live in. But there's also should be a level of respect to the contract that you've signed and the professionalism that you have to represent the England cricket team. And that standard, for me, I think is just slipped in the last year or so, 2 years. And I think that's been an issue.
Let's move very quickly onto the team, Harmy. Let's actually talk about the 11 unchanged top 5. Maybe a change at 6 with Jamie Smith and his partner expecting their second child. If that doesn't happen, he may well be replaced by James Rew, who would bat at 6 and take the gloves. But it's all change in the bowling attack, or not quite all. But Jofra Archer comes back and will bat at 8, which is interesting. And obviously, Matt Fisher, Josh Tongue retains his place. And Sonny Baker, number 11, will make his debut, which is exciting on the one hand. Do you know the last player to make his Test debut for any country with as few first-class games as Sonny Baker was Dale Steyn? And if Sonny Baker turns out to be half the cricketer Dale Steyn did, then fair dues. But I just fear for a fast bowler, and I'm asking you the question because, you know, if somebody takes a punt on you at number 3 or number 5, and you get a couple of first ballers, well, you can go off and hide, can't you? You can lick your wounds and sit in the corner of the change room and hope you get another chance. But you got nowhere to hide. If New Zealand get on top of you, and you know, and you've got to bowl 20 overs, and they're making 450. So I mean, but put it this way, in the nicest possible way, he hasn't earned his chance. I mean, it's a gamble, or is that simplifying it?
Yeah, it's a gamble. It's always a gamble when you pick somebody either from left field or you pick somebody who is young, is raw, but you see
Inexperienced. Yeah,
inexperienced, but you see the gamble potentially and what the gamble could be paying off. I don't want to compare him with someone like Dale Steyn, but I played in Dale Steyn's debut. in Port Elizabeth in 2000 and was
And
it
he was rubbish
2004?
apart from one ball.
I mean, I faced him quite a lot in Johannesburg when Trez was belting it everywhere. And if you tell me that Dale Steyn was going to get 400 plus Test match wickets, I think there would be a few people, and that's not being disrespectful of Dale. There'd be a few people would have gone, really, 400 not Test match wickets? Yeah, there's only Sean Pollock and one or two others that have gotten anywhere close to that. But what Dale Steyn did was he got in at the start. He learned from some of the mistakes he made. He constantly evolved. He learned how to move the Kookaburra ball when it was old from an angle point of view, because he had a huge amount of enthusiasm. He had a huge amount of skills, and he had a huge amount of cricket knowledge and brains. And that's, I don't know, you know Dale Steyn better than I do, but I watched that career develop from a bowler who couldn't get really the ball off the straight with a Kookaburra in that Port Elizabeth Test match, to want to be in the very best fast bowlers of all time, and learned how to be that in the big game. Like Stuart Broad in the big game. Jimmy Anderson went back and played county cricket and came back. Stuart Broad, Dale Steyn, they learned it in the big game. I look at Sonny Baker and think he's got a huge amount of enthusiasm. We've heard that on this show. He's got a lot of skill. We've seen that over the course of this short period that he's been playing for Hampshire. And he's got a huge amount of pace. Now, sometimes you are given the chance to evolve and develop. And I think this environment seems to want to do that. You've seen what Zach Crawley had. You've seen what Ollie Pope had. So I think giving Sonny Baker a chance to evolve, I think we could unearth a real superstar, both on the field and he's a character off the field as well, like a bit like Mark Wood. I don't think he's Mark Wood's pace, but I think what you might see in Sonny Baker at the start is I think raw pace, enthusiasm, but expensive. And hopefully this time next year, leading into a big series like the Ashes, we might be saying 6 Test matches, still got a huge amount of pace, developed loads in the last 12 months, much better bowler than he was last year, and he could be a massive threat when it comes to playing against Australia. That's what I want to see from Sonny Baker. And I think having him in this team, no Ben Stokes, puts a lot of pressure on Jofra Archer, because let's be fair, Matt Fisher hasn't played a great deal of cricket either. And you haven't got a spin bowler, a frontline spin bowler. I feel sorry for Shoaib Bashir. But that attack does excite me. And we're going to play on a flat wicket. I mean, the wickets at Surrey this year have been flat. So if you're going to play on a flat one, at least have some juice going through the air.
Yeah, right.
And in Archer, Tongue and Baker, England have got some juice going through the air. I can see New Zealand being 120 for 4 at lunchtime on day 1 of the Test match. The ball either getting a wicket or going for 4. But how exciting would that be? I'm really, really excited by this bowling attack. And I think Sonny Baker, I think, will evolve and develop into a very, very exciting proposition for England if we can keep him fit.
And a reminder that listeners outside of the UK will be able to hear the ball-by-ball commentary of the second Test between England and New Zealand from Wednesday morning onwards. Right, let's turn our attention to New Zealand now. They'll be looking to level the series, obviously, at the Oval this week. And ahead of the second Test, New Zealand batter Rachin Ravindra has been speaking with talkSPORT's Scott Taylor.
Rachin, thanks for joining us ahead of this second Test. Just some reflections on the first Test at Lord's. How much do you take away from that, given the wicket was rated unsatisfactory in the end?
Yeah, I guess that it was extreme conditions at the time, and look, I always maintain that you take learnings from success and failure and wins and losses. So we'll definitely take a few things, and personally, for sure, I've definitely got a few things I'd like to work on. I have been the last few days, and ultimately, like, cricket is sort of like that, and you get a wicket it's a bit extreme, and you take it for what it is. And the great thing about modern cricket is, games come thick and fast, and it's about adaptability and being able to adjust to different conditions. So we'll have a different wicket probably out there at the Oval, so we'll look to adapt there.
So New Zealand are used to playing a lot of 2-match series, so it would have been quietly stiff on you if one of them is on a difficult wicket. So how pleasing is it that you as Test cricketers in New Zealand have a free Test series here?
Yeah, it's great. I mean, look at our upcoming Test calendar. It's some pretty cool fixtures that I'm, very, very lucky and grateful to be witnessing and playing in. Certainly, it's great to have the 3-match series, and it feels like there's deciders and potential for deciders, especially the way cricket's played these days, and especially over in England. You hear about the tradition of Test cricket over here and how the fans get around us and the English team and the tradition of it, and I think it's awesome to play as much cricket as we can in this part of the world.
I remember you saying 4 years ago when New Zealand last came over here that it was a dream come true just to run the drinks at Lord's. So to now be a strong part of that New Zealand side playing Test cricket in England must be pretty cool.
Oh, for sure. I mean, it's always a pinch yourself moment, and I think it's always, you take the field with utmost pride when you're representing your nation with the fern on your chest, and I think every time I get to play it's certainly a privilege. And I think if you asked me 4 years ago I'd be in this position, I'd chop your arm off. I'd be super excited about the opportunity. So yeah, I mean, it's a dream come true, and it's awesome to be able to share the moments with some awesome people and awesome teammates.
You may have noticed between tests there's been a lot going on with the England team, but slightly under the radar, one of your heroes has announced his retirement with immediate effect. Where were you when you found out? What was that conversation like with Kane?
Yeah, it was quite emotional, I think, and we sort of just gathered in the team room, and then he told us, and it's quite emotional. I don't know, I sort of felt like I was going to cry, and it's not even about me, It's just because he's been the trailblazer, you want to say, the maverick for us for such a long period of time, and he's done it since 2010, and me, I've literally throughout my teenage years, I was watching him. He was, the batsman to be, and him and Ross Taylor, really. So it was certainly, I guess, emotional, and I'm obviously very happy for Kane and the timing of his decision. He's still that guy, goes under the radar, right, and so humble and for all that he's achieved, and he's done it in his way, which is cool to see, and I'm sure his career will be celebrated for many, many years.
There's a phrase in England we have about never meeting your heroes, because you might not live up to the expectations. But as someone who walked into the dressing room with Kane in at the time, just tell us about what that experience was like, first and foremost.
I think I was scared of him at first. It's not because of him. I think it's his aura around him. And obviously, when you're a young player, you put those guys on pedestals. And when I first came to the team, it was Roscoe, Timmy, Trent, Wags, Kane, all those boys, BJ. So it was a great crew to come into, and learned a lot from those boys, even though it was a brief time. And then once I sort of got to know Kane and chatting about batting, chatting about off the field, his mindset, the team stuff, it's such a lovely guy, and he's got, I'd sort of call him a mentor in what he does for a lot of us. It's really hard to put into words.
Because you said in the press conference that you learned quite a lot off him, but can you go into that specifics? Because with him batting 3 and you batting 4, you would have shared a lot of time out in the middle together. Yeah,
we did, and I think that's something I'm super grateful for. Over the last 3 years when I've started batting up the order, I've shared some cool partnerships with him, and how calm he is, how present he is. It's ball after ball. He just does the same thing over and over and over again, and just plays his way, which I admire massively. And there's no ego, there's no showing off, there's nothing. He plays some amazing shots. His timing, being a batting purist who studied a lot of technique, it's one of the most beautiful things you can watch in the non-striker's end.
And now talk to me about your bowling attack, because it's probably the seam attack's probably one of the best in Test cricket. What's it like going to training knowing that you're going to have to face that essentially?
Yeah, especially with no sight screens here at the Oval, it makes it difficult. Everyone's got their own challenges, right? Kyle's bounce and swing both ways, Wars' pace and bounce, Tez, Matt Henry nipping it both ways, Smudge as well, Nathan Smith. We've got an amazing seam attack, and it certainly challenges you in the nets and gets you prepared for the game, and such. I don't know, I guess credit to the depth of New Zealand cricket at the moment. It's great to see such bowlers coming through, and it makes you excited to play Test cricket, because these guys are going to run in, and it's more than just their skill, I guess. It's the heart, and they're always willing to do the tough stuff, which is the Kiwi way.
How difficult is it to find that balance between, obviously, you want to go into Test with confidence under your belt, the fact that you're training well, but you're facing Willow Rourke at 150, and you might be nicking off. So how hard is it to get confidence from facing a bowling attack like that?
Oh, I know. It's honestly incredible. I think, what was it, Ponting used to say, right? Ricky used to say he used to face new bowlers, new ball with Lee and McGrath and stuff, knowing that he wouldn't face anything harder. I'm not sure about that logic, to be honest, Punter, but it makes sense, even though you don't feel so good, but you're always challenging yourself, and I think that's the beauty of this game. I think the reason why we love it so much is it brings new challenges, and you're always trying to get better. And even though you might not feel so good one day, the next day you're better for it. So, there's certainly a balance to it. You want to be putting yourselves being uncomfortable in the nets and tough positions, but also there's a bit of drill work you do at the end just to feel good.
And how much does your prep for this test change? Because 3 of the 4 seamers that played for England at Lords aren't available for this test for injury or suspension or whatever. So you don't have to face the likes of Sonny. I know you played with him at Manchester, but Matt Fisher as well. So how does that prep change, knowing that one week you're facing these sorts of guys, next week it's a completely different skill set?
Yeah, it's obviously, I think your preparation in terms of from a scouting point of view and your plans change probably a little bit. I don't think it changes too much in the nets. Obviously, you're trying to execute different positions and being specific on what they're going to try to do to you. And they're obviously good bowlers, and they'll show their craft and skill. But I think it's more of a planning thing for us. And yeah, it can be difficult, but I think the beauty of it is modern day cricket, right? You've got so much video, you've got so much stuff on that on the players, so it'd be good to tick that off as we're sort of getting into the game, and hopefully we've turned all stones.
And how beneficial is it that a lot of this Kiwi side have played here in England, whether it be county cricket or the 100?
Yeah, it's great. We've actually had so many players come through the county system. I think most of our batting line has probably played county cricket, and certainly obviously 100 too. So I always say we always love coming to the UK. People are so warming and love their cricket. It's always a privilege to play cricket out here, but also knowing the conditions well. Guys have played test matches. Daryl's got 300s over here. Yeah. Tommy Blundell's had an amazing series last time. So Devon's got a double 100. We've got a lot of experience, in that, especially batting lineup, and means you can lean on each other and pick each other's brains when you need to.
I know you're only 26, so there's still time for you, but do you want to come over and play county cricket? And I guess schedules meant you probably haven't over the last couple of years, right?
Yeah, whenever there's opportunity, you always want to grow your game and learn, and I think nothing better than a little bit of red ball block. Obviously, it's hard to say knowing the schedule and stuff, but I admire the county cricket system, and played one game for Durham, so it's nice checking the scorecard of those points every now and again. But it's a cool place to play cricket, and I'd relish any opportunity to come back.
And just looking ahead to the next 12 months, you've got this 3-test series, you've got a 4-test series in Australia, and then India come to New Zealand. In terms of a bucket list, it must be a pretty cool 12 months to be a black cap.
Yeah, it's a great way to put it. I think you play top 3 nations in the world, and in Aussie, which I have never played cricket in Aussie, and a 4-test series. I don't remember the last time we had that. Yeah. See England over here and playing two games in 2 historic venues and Lords in the Oval, and stuff like that is, like I say, stuff made of dreams, and you're excited to see every time you get out there, and I think it's the best sort of test calendar New Zealand cricket has had for a number of years, so it's super exciting.
That's the ever entertaining Rachin Ravindra talking to Scotty Taylor. What a lovely image, Scott. Imagine being scared of Kane Williamson. What a thought. And then you actually, if you've met Rachin Ravindra, you can imagine him thinking that he might burst into tears when Williamson told the team that he was retiring.
Yeah, you can. Both of them, such nice guys, really, really nice guys. We've spent a lot of time in New Zealand, haven't we, Manners? And whenever we're out there, we get looked after by our hosts very, very well. And the access that New Zealand Cricket Board give to their players from a media point of view, especially for us, was better than anybody else. And you get to know the likes of, or you get to understand what makes the likes of Rachin Ravindra tick, and obviously how quiet Kane Williamson is. It is brilliant, but what a career! 110 Test matches, 9,515 as it runs, Test match runs. It's a ridiculous average of 54. He's been a huge rock to that batting unit, to that nation, and very, very unassuming. You look at the sort of what would have as the Fab Four, and you're very, very confident. Very eccentric sometimes in Virat Kohli. a huge amount of moving parts in Steve Smith, in two very very quiet guys in Joe Root and Kane Williamson, who all go about their business in the same fashion, which is they just love scoring runs. And he's going to be a big loss, huge hole to fill, and one like what Rachin Ravindra said there. I mean, he said he was frightened of him when he first got in the dressing room. I thought that was a great line. Frightened of Kane Williamson, the aura that he had with him. And I remember going into the England dressing room for the very first time, and my hero was Darren Gough, and the aura around Darren, I quickly realised what an idiot he was, and I relaxed a little bit. So no, I mean, you do as a young player go in, and you go into, sometimes you go into an experienced dressing room and you look around the room and you go, wow, can't believe I'm sitting here, because of my education in cricket has been watching you guys play on TV. And it's up to Rachin Ravindra now that in 5, 10, 15 years' time, however long he plays Test match cricket, that the young Rachin Ravindra that comes in the dressing room sees him in the same way as he saw Kane. And if he does, then, New Zealand have got a fantastic cricketer in Ravindra. He's just going through a little bit of an indifferent patch at this moment in time, and now he has to stand up.
Just before we end this section, just got one quote from Kane Williamson to play for you, Harmy.
You always want to do more, and a lot of that's because you're in a team that you care about. So to claim all that is not quite right in my mind. It's like, do you know what? We've had an amazing group of people that have done some pretty cool things, and that's what I reflect on. And a part of that is, like, when you are somewhere that you care deeply about, it draws a lot out of you. So all those different performances that that you try to look back on, and they're for the team, they're for one of my little things is I'll remind myself, and you feel different every day, but is that the runs aren't yours, they're of service, and I think that's what draws a lot out of you, because what's enough, and so you do everything you can to be a little bit better and give a little bit more, and that's how I've gone about my career, and also it's brought a lot of joy, when you give them to something else, rather than it being about you all the time, and it makes it a lot of fun, eh?
That's Kane Williamson. Harmy, I don't know whether this makes me strange, but I find it oddly satisfying when a truly great cricketer or sportsman or woman finds it difficult to accept the adulation that they receive. I'll never, ever forget in Zimbabwe many years ago, well, not that many years ago, Williamson was again sort of battling with the admiration and adulation that was being directed in his way. And he said, I just happen to be okay at hitting a cricket ball, and I try to be a decent bloke. And he was just, and I wanted to sort of grab him by the lapels and go, that's exactly why you are so special.
Yeah, that's why. If you can keep it as simple as that, let's say the great game we have, the great game we love, cricket. If somebody bowls it, somebody hits it, somebody fetches it, and if you can keep it as simple as that, it's just complicated by idiots. And that's the simple game, and Kane played a very simple game. Kane might struggle to say that, he is one of the greatest New Zealand cricketers ever. I don't think Richard Hadlee had the same problems to Richard Hadlee. I think Richard Hadlee knew he was the greatest cricketer that has ever played for New Zealand, and I still think he thinks that way. He's probably right as well. So yeah, I mean, I played with Andy Caddick, and he was from New Zealand, and he struggled to be in the kit. He was more in the Richard Hadlee bracket than he was in the Kane Williamson. And that's why him and Goughy didn't get on as well.
Let's talk T20 Women's World Cup now, Harmy. It was an emphatic 87-run victory for England over Sri Lanka in the tournament opener at Edgbaston. Really impressive from Danny Wyatt-Hodge, 105 not out from 62 balls, 219 for one on the board. And you knew there was pretty much going to be no way back for Sri Lanka. But they were emphatic with the ball as well. Runs for captain Natseva Brunt. It's 46 off 22 balls. Just an all-round strong performance with Amy Jones as well, making 53 off 38. So in some ways, you want you might prefer more of a game, more of a contest for your opener. I mean, it's good for confidence, but maybe a few more batters having some time in the middle might have been good.
Yeah, I mean, with the talk, well, there's a lot of talk before the tournament about going to Sandhurst and not playing in a domestic competition, and to get batters in form or bowlers in form. I mean, any nerves of playing at home in the big tournament? I mean, it didn't look like it, did it? I mean, the was it the Wicked? Was it Wicked? I mean, my granddaughter loved it. The Wicked theatre show did the build up and the opening ceremony. And England just, I mean, they were wicked throughout the whole lot. I mean, Danny had a first boundary. It was a lovely shot, and you just when somebody's in good touch and somebody just eases the ball through the gap, and you think, oh, this looks good. That timing, the sound, the feel, everything that came with it. And brilliant to see Nats give a run back, because I think it's important for England that not only they have their captain but their best player back. And I just thought the whole performance was polished to a high standard, where you're going, well, was there any nerves coming to the tournament? Doesn't look like it. And can they play any better than that? Well, I tell you what, they might not be able to play better than that, not be able to top that. So, but I think all in all, I mean, Danny Whitehodge, what a fantastic innings. I mean, 62 balls for that 105 not out to bat all the way through and play the way he played. I thought it was a brilliant innings, and one that I think whet the appetite for what's been, I think, so far a decent start to the tournament. I've seen bits of the India-Pakistan game just because it's India-Pakistan. I don't care whether it's a men's game, the women's game, the under-19s game, the under-15s game, or under-13s game. India against Pakistan is always, a hot contest. And I thought India looked a good side. I thought they looked a really good side. And if we keep getting the dry surfaces, the dry weather and the dry surfaces, Australia had a little bit of a blip, but they did, they came back well. But I mean, India look a good side, and if we get dry surfaces and the ball spins, they're going to be a good side. They're going to be a difficult side to beat, this India side, as well as obviously England, Australia.
I'll tell you who else looked good: Australia against South Africa. Australia looked very good. They're rebuilding. They got fresh blood, new faces, some new names. They've got some familiar ones as well. Talking of new names and fresh faces, Freya Kemp. There's a lot of familiarity about the England team, but it really is good to see that they've, that she's now, I don't know whether she's a part of the furniture slotted in permanently, but she looks very good. A little bit of a change of angle as well. 4 for 22. I think it's good, isn't it, to see that there is some evolution in the team rather than just continuity.
Yeah, it's a great point you make, because sometimes when a player comes in such sort of all singing, all dancing, everybody knows their own game and knows the game plan, knows their role in the side. When somebody comes in who hasn't been in for like a long period of time, who fits in, bang, straight away, and nails what she needed to nail at that specific time for the game situation. And she didn't look out of place. She didn't look as though she was looking around and thinking, well, this is not my role, it's somebody else's role, because this side has been such a good side for a long time. And, everybody understands what the game plan is. I just thought it was an all-round polished performance. And I think some of the younger players that have come in, they don't look out of place, because you're right, it has been a side with a huge amount of continuity in recent times. And I think sometimes when a youngster comes in, it takes them a while to fit into whether they belong in the game plan, whether it's with the bat or with the ball. And Freya Kemp showed that, she definitely belongs.
Okay, let's move on to some other stories. It wouldn't be following on with Neil Manthorp and Steve Harmison if we didn't mention Zach Crawley in some capacity. We spoke about him for 2 months, didn't he, before the first Test match was announced. But Zach's taken a break from first-class cricket, Harmy. I don't know. I mean, purely on form, 226 runs at an average of 20 with no 50s. You would want to take a break, wouldn't you? Or at least you could be persuaded into taking a break. But it hasn't been great for Zach. At the same time, he's been named as Sunrisers Leeds coach for the 100, captain for the 100, which is really interesting. I mean, you did mention a month or 6 weeks ago that I think it was slightly tongue in cheek, and it was, as always, said with care about Zach that perhaps he should just walk away from red ball cricket. Maybe his future lies in white ball cricket, particularly franchise cricket, make some money in T20 leagues around the world. I wonder if he does that. I mean, can you just walk away from red ball cricket? I mean, isn't it something that's in your blood? You need a sort of transfusion to get rid of it.
Yeah, I think you're right. When I said what I said, I was about reinventing himself. So the reinventing part would be, I thought maybe this would be a bad thing. Wouldn't be a bad thing. Sort of take yourself away from red ball cricket for a little bit of a period of time, and then come back. I think wouldn't be a bad idea. Maybe he's come back in the middle order, possibly at number 4, number 5. And come back where the ball's not moving as much, the top of the order. Go and play white ball cricket and dominate, because that's your game. Big front foot, 6'5", long levers, top of the order, hit the white ball and give it a belt. That's what we want you to do, Zach. And I think you could do that in red ball cricket, and without being disrespectful to Kent or to our old pal from this show and one of my sort of really good friends in Adam Holyoke. I don't want to see him lose any players, but part of the reinventment would be potentially leaving Kent and going playing somewhere else and starting new, afresh. These are things that I would be throwing at Zach from an advised point of view, where he goes next. I think, and back into the summer or even start next summer. Have a time with the Sunrisers, go and be captain, go and play in the SA20, see if you can get another franchise gig around the world. Do what you do best, which is go and try and hit the ball, and access the ball and hit the ball as hard as you can at the top of the order in the white ball game, and then come back next summer. And if you want to play red ball cricket, what about slipping in at number 4 and number 5 for Kent, and potentially going and captaining Kent as well? And something like that to try and put something in your mind different to what has been, unfortunately, for Zach over the course of the last couple of years, quite a lot of negativity. I think try and get the positivity back into your game, why you love playing the game, and all of a sudden try and reinvent what your game is to make it better and a more enjoyment form for you to play, which is the red ball game, which, like you say, everybody loves and wants to play.
All right. Now, tell me what you think about the ECB announcing that the T20s against India have been changed from 6:30 starts to 5:30 starts. That makes it 10 p.m. Indian time, which makes them more accessible and maximizes revenue. I have to say, Harmy, that, the people who are moaning and saying that it's the ECB bowing down again to the BCCI. In this particular instance, I tend to think, yep, yeah, they are. And if it means more money, fair enough. And, they say, well, I mean, the floodlights won't even take effect. They start at 5:30 in the afternoon. And I'm thinking, so? Yeah. I mean, frankly, of all the things that the ECB can and have done, and Cricket Australia can and have done in order to facilitate the BCCI's wishes, this is amongst the most harmless, I fancy. 5:30, you know what? I mean, so it's over by 9 rather than over by 10. You get home an hour earlier. I can't see too much evil in it.
No, I can't. The only thing I'll have a go at them at is why you knew what was going to happen.
Why didn't they do it earlier?
Exactly. So, how many times have we said on this show that they've been going for 4 years? Why have they gone to Lilac Hill? They know they're going for 4 years. Then why don't they get somewhere that they can practice, which is going to bounce above shin high? There are things in your control that you think, you know what? Let's put a series on against India and start at 6:30, and then after a year go, oh, by the way, 5:30 might be a better start if we got Indian primetime box office to watch it. So That's my only gripe. I'm not bothered. An hour earlier means public transport probably is easier accessible, which makes a hell of a lot of sense. An hour later, 6:30, means people probably can finish work at normal time, 5 o'clock, and get to the games. So there's pros and cons with all that. I think the public transport one, especially in and around the bigger cities, that you can get out by 9:30. I think that makes a huge amount of sense. I mean, does it matter if the lights are on or not? It makes a pretty picture, but it doesn't do much for the game. It just comes back to the fact that 18 months ago, 2 years ago, when you put this series together, I mean, have we daylight saving time in India? The clock's gone back. We knew exactly what 10 o'clock was going to be like and 11 o'clock was going to be like in India when it comes to selling it to that market. So I'm with you. I think it's trivial in respect of what the ECB and Cricket Australia and other boards have given to the BCCI. But
I tell you what's not trivial, Harmy, is the fact that like every other board, the ECB plans in a 4-year cycle, and they have announced that they expect to make a loss in 2027, despite it being a home Ashes. Now, the impression and the belief that the Ashes is, one of the great money spinners in international cricket, is being laid to waste a bit. I mean, and they have stated that the reason they expect 2027 to generate a financial loss overall is because there's no India tour. It's staggering, really. I mean, that this whole financial process journey that the global game is on needs to be turned around. It needs to be changed. You can't have this situation where everybody is dependent on tours by India. That the Ashes was supposed to be the great standalone event for Test cricket, the flagship event, that made money. It beggars belief, isn't it? 5 Test matches, the first 3 or 4 days of which will be sold out. I suppose it's TV rights. Doesn't matter about. I mean, gate money's all right, but it's the IPL. It's sucking out the TV rights from events like the Ashes.
Yeah, and that's it. It's all about the broadcaster. It's all about the broadcaster, and I fear for Sky in the next few years when it comes to the broadcast deal, when it comes to the 100. And the new owners aren't going to want to just give Sky the rights for that, which would then have a huge ramifications on 18 first-class counties and the wider grassroots game. And that comes down to broadcasting. The Ashes, I mean, it was all about, but at the end of the day, as we know, we're a commercial radio station. It's not, the Ashes away is not a great tour for talkSPORT because it's in the middle of the night and nobody really switches on and listens, does it? So hence why the last few Ashes haven't been taken up by Sky, who I think are the best broadcaster by a million mile over anybody else when it comes to how they do it from a TV point of view, and they just don't see it financially working. So from all that, it tells you that the game's changing. The money that's in the game, the ECB, I mean, you look at, and I'm not having to go at Kesey or at the hierarchy and the central contracts, but England have wasted a lot of money when it comes to, they've had quite a lot of players on central contracts who haven't played for England, but that's not Rob's fault. It's not the board's fault. It's how you plan in the future and where the landscape of the cricket is going. The landscape of the cricket is going, it seems as though it's franchise tournaments, it's short form tournaments, and how you make your money is all about the TV. And if India have got, some skin in the game, then, or a horse in the race, then India, you've got a chance of a windfall. If not, you're back at a donkey. If you've not got India in your summer, and unfortunately for England next year, 2027. No India looks, even though with the Ashes, that the ECB's coffers will be a lot lighter.
You've been listening to Following On with me, Neil Manthorp, alongside former England fast bowler Steve Harmison, and we'll be back next Monday to look ahead to the 3rd and final test between England and New Zealand with ball-by-ball commentary for overseas listeners on the talkSPORT Cricket YouTube channel.